Hi everybody, how's it going? My name is Cheyenne, and in this video I'm going to teach you a productivity method I learned over the past 4 years of high school that helps me remember everything I read to prepare me for my exams and tests. Because of this, I developed some tips and strategies that can make this experience far easier and perhaps even more enjoyable for you. Let's get to this. I'm going to break down today's video into 3 main parts about this strategy. The first part, understanding and reviewing your material. Second part, how to take notes on your material. And the third part, how to efficiently study for it. First and foremost, before you can memorize or remember any of your material, you need to fully and completely understand it. Meaning you need to genuinely be able to connect the dots between what is happening and be able to fully explain it without a speck of doubt in your mind. Even if there is the smallest doubt or even the smallest thing you don't understand, that thing is going to prevent you from understanding your material because you're going to start doubting yourself when you start remembering your material. One thing I suggest doing is try not to memorize or remember anything for the first time, but simply read it and understand it. Watch YouTube videos, do research online, and even use ChatGPT to answer small questions that you have. But the most important part is to fully understand your material. I often spend a lot of time, even one whole day, just to try to understand what my material is saying before I can try to memorize it the next day. This way, even if I don't get the time to memorize it, at least I've learned it. And according to science, when you learn something, it goes into your long-term memory, meaning you are far more likely to remember it next time. Because of this, I suggest try to understand it for the first time rather than memorize it right off the bat. The second and most important part of this video is how should you take notes on the material that you're studying so that you can better remember it. Now, when it comes to taking notes, there's a specific style of note-taking that helps you remember all of your material and makes it easier for you to recall them during a test or exam. I'm going to focus on 3 aspects of my note-taking that makes it extremely easy for me to remember and memorize things, because this style of note-taking is actually supported by scientific evidence. So let me get to show you. So when it comes to note-taking, I've seen 2 specific styles. There are types of people who only use one color. For example, they take a blue pen and write all of their notes in blue pen. That is possibly the worst type of note-taking. If it works for you, that's great, but I think there are more efficient methods. On the other hand, there are people who use 40 different colors. Although there is not a specific problem with this, there are more efficient methods. Science suggests that you should stick to 3 to 4 different colors of note-taking so that you don't overwhelm yourself with different colors and start to get confused. Next, each color actually has to represent something. You can't just use the color blue because it would look good this time. It genuinely has to flow and refer to an organizational aspect of the text. The color red in my notes refers to a headline, while the color black refers to text. This is very important because in my mind, anytime I try to remember something, I say, okay, what was the headline at that time? And I remember the color red, it stands out perfectly, and I'm able to remember it right off the bat. And then I know that anything that's in black is obviously information that I have to memorize, so it's much easier to remember. This is very important to note because you shouldn't just be using tons of different colors just so that it looks pretty. You have to use it for a certain purpose. In fact, I would suggest you even make a legend on your paper saying that red represents headline, black represents text, blue represents comments, etc., etc. So let me model some of my note-taking for you and how it actually works out on paper. So here the headline is the functions of the nervous system, and obviously the text in black is actually the information that I have to memorize. Notice the great amount of space that I'm putting in between each line of text. The reason I don't make everything cramped and I don't make it compact is because it's far easier for me to learn it and distinguish it on paper when there is space, rather than cramming everything together and it becomes jumbled up. This is actually a very key thing. I've seen my friends take notes on a piece of paper that is extremely small and they try to fit everything just on one page. But the issue with this is that it makes it far more difficult trying to memorize it just because of how much information there is on the paper and that you're going to feel overwhelmed. Just give yourself the space and write more organized. Next, I'd like you to look at the areas that I've highlighted in yellow, which are my style of taking notes in point form. When you're taking notes, you should use a lot of point form, stars, arrows, and many other ways to let yourself know that this is something you have to memorize or understand. For example, for me, stars usually represent something like note or make sure to remember this, or this is very important. Average circles just represent simple ideas that I have to memorize, and then arrows are continuations of ideas. I would say use a lot of this and don't write notes in full sentences. Next, another important aspect of my note-taking that I've seen on international exams too is writing horizontally and never dividing your paper in half. When I was doing the IB exams, one thing that they emphasized to us is never write vertically, always write horizontally. The reason they say this is the attention span of the examiner is usually going from left to right, and going up to down is very unusual. And the same goes from trying to memorize things. If things are going left to right and your paper isn't divided into 1,000 different segments, it makes it far easier for you to memorize it just because of how organized it is. Clearly you can see it with my style of note-taking, and then I also want to show you what exactly not to do. So looking at this picture right here, which is note-taking on some aspects of biology, on the left side you have outer shell of the skeleton, and on the right side there's a box that explains why are brain cases thick. So what I would suggest doing is take notes horizontally, meaning bring this box down so that your page is not divided into different boxes of notes. Each segment of your horizontal line should be only allotted to one specific idea and not tens of different ideas. And for the final and perhaps one of the most important parts of this video is how can you actually memorize the notes that you just took. The tips I've given you so far make this section of the video far easier to complete, because the point of this is to actually memorize or remember the notes that you've taken. And the style of note-taking that I've shown you is perhaps the most efficient style. Now, if you are a visual learner, one thing that I would suggest doing when reviewing your exam is try to visualize your notes. Meaning every time you're recalling something or you're trying to memorize it, close your eyes and genuinely think about what is on your paper. This way you're able to quickly recall your material during your exam and be able to apply it on your test. Now, what you want to do is simply pick up your notes and walk around saying it out loud. I don't want you to be thinking about it. I want you to be saying it out loud while having an image of it in your mind. So you're basically reading off of your notes, which is in your mind, out loud. This is an extremely efficient method of studying because not only are you saying it out loud, which then you're hearing it, you're also visualizing it, which means you're cementing in this set of information through visual and auditory styles of learning. Now, of course, this is all based on my own experience, but this method of studying has helped me get 99 to 100% on multiple different courses in the IB program. You don't have to 100% replicate my style of note-taking, but try to pick and choose the things that you think would be more productive for you. I would love to hear about your style of studying and how you think you can memorize and remember all of your material. So leave a comment and I would love to see it. If you learned something of value in today's video, do drop a like, it really does help out. And I'm going to be uploading weekly videos specifically on Saturdays, so subscribe if you want to tune in. See you on the next one.